right, Tom. Sorry about that. We got there in the end. Yeah, it's a bit buggy Twitter Spaces sometimes.
Yeah. I was just saying,
Right.
I was trying to figure out how to get your attention on the PC on just a regular browser. I didn't have a way to raise my hand, and I heard you saying raise your hand, but wasn't able to. So got here now, and excited to be here and chatting with everybody today.
Yeah. I was just like mix up Telegrams, raise your hand, and obviously we just set you up as a speaker on the Twitter Spaces. Well, welcome, Tom. I'm Glenn, your host. Welcome everybody today to this Welcome Talk Spaces with LitCraft. We've got Tom Anderson, who's the CEO and co-founder of DevVIO and LitCraft. So we'll be talking about that shortly. But before we start, Tom, can you tell us about yourself and how you got involved in the crypto industry?
Sure. Yeah. So just briefly, I'm an experienced entrepreneur. My first business was actually a robotics business. And in that business, I raised about $34 million. I took the company public. We created the world's first consumer 3D touch device. And with that, got into the video game industry. So a lot of my career was actually in the video game space. And in that business, we got national distribution on our products. I licensed on the order of about $100 million of video game development. And then to make a long story short, sold our IP to Facebook. So that was my first business. My second business is Devio. And Devio I started about 7 years ago, saw enormous opportunity in the blockchain space. To me, blockchain is one of the few technologies we'll see in our lifetime that really fundamentally changes computing on par with the internet. Where the internet was a disruptive platform that lets people transfer data, blockchain is a disruptive platform that lets people transfer value. And if you look at it at that most basic level, we saw world-changing implications. But there was no technology that really solved all the problems you have to solve to build a real business. There are big challenges in scalability, privacy, fraud, theft, and loss, stability, interoperability. Probably the biggest is cost. And if you start scaling, enterprise scale businesses, those all become real issues. So given that there was no technology that really solved all those problems, and again, this is maybe 7 years ago. We designed our own blockchain protocol from scratch, came up with our own consensus mechanism, and then with that, we solved the sharding problem. So sharding is parallelizing the processing on a blockchain. There's a lot of sharding solutions out there, including Ethereum's, but nothing like ours. Ours is very unique. We can create any number of independent blockchains that all can interact with each other. And so we could scale horizontally as big as we'd ever need, to be able to create the throughput that we would ever need. But really, what we found is it gives us architectural flexibility. So we can create any number of blockchains for any number of use cases. We could have 1,000 blockchains or shards, in 1,000 different legal jurisdictions. And then we also created the blockchain in a way that any web developer can interact with it. All of the interactions with the blockchain are through a RESTful API. So there's 200,000 Solidity developers. There's 25 million web developers, right? And so we kind of chose a path where the majority of the world's developers can instantly integrate with our blockchain. So that combination of being able to create any number of blockchains customized to a particular use case, and then having an easy way to integrate with them, really to me makes me feel like we're going to become a leader in the whole blockchain space. That's been the vision all along, and I think we're even though we're not widely known, I think our technology really puts us in a place where that can be true, especially as we're starting to expand now. And then the last bit of the story, kind of background wise, is we had a test bed game that we were using to test the blockchain. We had a high speed blockchain, so we had a test bed game that we had created about 4 or 5 years ago. And about a year and a half ago, when Axie Infinity exploded and the whole blockchain gaming space, got exciting, especially with my background in the video game industry. I'm a video game industry veteran. Saw a big opportunity to have kind of a first use of our blockchain as a gaming application, which is LitCraft. And then that's since expanded, and we're really growing it into a much more encompassing philosophy and a goal of a more encompassing overall digital financial ecosystem. So that's kind of a quick bit of background on kind of the technology Devi has been using and how that's kind of led into one of our beachhead projects.
Okay, thanks very much for the introduction, Tom. So how does it all tie in? You've got the Dev VO, you're the CEO and founder of that. Are you the founder of DevVX, the blockchain as well, and LitCraft, or LitCraft, should I say?
Yeah. So Devio is the blockchain company. The blockchain that Devio created is called DevX. And so kind of our branding is DEVV in front of everything. So the blockchain is DevX. And then I was also the creator of LitCraft. So LitCraft I actually created even before Devio. It's kind of been a passion project I've had for really almost a decade now. And even based on like a lot of the core concepts in it are based on philosophies, and metaphysical concepts and just things that I've thought through for decades, really. And so LitCraft itself is a pretty neat intellectual property. The hope is that it can become one of the big IPs like Star Wars or Star Trek or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. Those kinds of things. So that's the hope and the goal for it. It's a very rich and detailed sci-fi fantasy universe, and we've built a really kind of robust game and financial ecosystem on top of it. There's a book. We're creating a show as well. Hopefully in the future we'll have movies, things like that. So yes, I was the creator of LitCraft, and that is kind of the foundation that we created this financial ecosystem that we're building on top of Devio. And then it really uses Devio's capabilities well. Devio's blockchain can process millions of transactions per second. It's 1/10 millionth the cost of Ethereum, 1/3 billionth the energy usage of Bitcoin. So it's a very efficient, scalable, architecturally flexible, blockchain. And then again, it has that RESTful API that's makes it easy to integrate. One good example of that is we built our own applications that we're using now. So we have our Glassblock marketplace, where you can buy and sell NFTs and other assets on the DevX blockchain. And that was created actually by the original developer of the Amazon Kindle, who created also obviously the Amazon Kindle marketplace, so global scale marketplace. And he didn't have any blockchain experience, and he hired a traditional Web 2 team, and then they came in and they built our marketplace, our sellers portal, even our wallet, all just using our RESTful API with no blockchain experience. So you have a situation where you've got this real ringer pro, building these powerful Web3 applications with a Web 2 team, and it looks like a Web 2 application. And I've showed just kind of regular people that don't know the blockchain space our Glassblock marketplace, and they're like, "Yeah, great, looks like a regular marketplace. Looks like something I'd see on Shopify." I'm like, "You don't understand. This is a Web 3 application." So yeah, it's kind of neat technology, and it's neat how all the pieces are all fitting together at this point.
Okay, great, Tom. So yeah, let's go into the LitCraft, how the game economy works. Like say, you've got popular game genres in there, solitaire and Sudoku as well, play to earn games. Can we just sort of delve into LitCraft game?
Yeah, thank you. So LitCraft, I think, so starting out again, it's a sci-fi fantasy universe, the brand itself. And the idea is that there's mages that live among us, and they have a lot of hidden cities. So there's a city in the center of the earth. There's a city on planets and on the moon. There's cities under the ocean, cities under mountains. And millennia ago, a lot of the world's magical creatures started to separate, into these, what we call lit, societies. And then it's kind of further expanded and separated. And so that's the premise. And so we created the LitCraft Experience game based on that sci-fi fantasy universe. And the LitCraft Experience game, again, we started almost 5 years ago, and it was based on a game that I had created before Devio as well. And it was kind of a Minecraft type of game where you go through and you start digging out the land, and you get lots of different types of materials and items. So on the blockchain sense, tokens, and then you can craft them into more and more complex things. So it was a great way to test the blockchain, because video games in general have lots of transactions. transactions, and we needed something that would test the throughput of our blockchain. But it also had a lot of different types of assets. So then about maybe 3 years ago, we added in a pet battling game. So this is even before Axie Infinity, where you could create NFTs on chain, and we originally created it again to start testing our NFT concepts. Where you could have any type of JSON wrapped data, so any type of data put on the blockchain and represented as a non fungible token, and created that pet battling game where pets could battle on a board, and they have different powers, and the pets are actually crafted using a smart contract on chain, so you can prove the provenance of their creation, things like that. And then about 2 years ago, we added in the concept of businesses that you could add into the game as well. And so, the part of the hope in the overall LitCraft experience ecosystem, the financial ecosystem, is that people can actually learn a lot about entrepreneurship. What it takes to start a business, and it mirrors kind of real world concepts. As you start to level up a business, you start to need more and more resources like accounting resources, HR, legal, marketing. All the things you need in a real life business, right? And just like a real life business, you start building your business, you have to put money and effort into it, and eventually grow it to profitability, right? And so, and get and register the business, all the things that you have to do in kind of a real world business. So then last year on Earth Day, April 22nd, we actually launched the game as a product, and it's been very well received. We have users that have played more than 500 hours in the game, and we have a very active community. Our community is awesome. I interact with them daily. And so it's just really a fun group and a great game. And then this year on Earth Day coming up, we're doing another big release, and this game coming up is the version coming up is our V4 version, and it really emphasizes what I've been describing, the digital financial ecosystem, and that's really kind of the future of where we're headed as a company. And LitCraft is a good beachhead application for it, but it's broader than just video games. And so that was a little bit of a long-winded kind of background to, you're asking about LitCraft and kind of how it works and everything. That's a little bit of background. So let me kind of describe now kind of what it's becoming, and especially what we when we release the version 4 release on April 22nd, what it really is going to be. So I would say the main thing that differentiates LitCraft from everything else out in the blockchain gaming world, and in the gaming world in general, is this focus we have on the digital financial ecosystem. So this idea that many people can interact in many different ways, and all kind of find their niche in the ecosystem and create value that others in the ecosystem use. So what I mean by that is it's analogous to kind of real life. In the real world, if you are a baker, for example, you don't create a field and go out and grow your own wheat. You just buy bags of flour. Because you're a baker, you're not a farmer, right? You don't go and get a legal degree and pass the bar. You hire a lawyer for your company's legal needs. Same with accounting, same with marketing. You hire people that do the things that you need to run your business. You hire and you buy the materials you need to run your business. So using that same analogy, that's a lot of what LitCraft Experience does, and this is a really important concept for a like a blockchain based game. Most blockchain games are just a simple kind of trade off between issuances and sinks, right? So in Axie Infinity, you battle, you get SLP, you use SLP to buy more Axies, and that's it. There's just issuances and sinks. But that's not really a good way to grow a long term, scalable, kind of financially capable game over time. So having a more robust ecosystem really is what's needed. So in LitCraft, for example, you can play any of 24 games. You can play solitaire, Sudoku, match 3 games like Candy Crush Saga, merge games that are kind of like Merge Dragon or Evermerge, if you've heard of those. There's just other kind of classic little puzzle games. We have our battling card battling games, kind of a classic card battling strategy game. We have a first person shooter coming out, a space shooting game. Again, players have spent many hundreds of hours playing these, so the games are very fun on their own, and they're just kind of copying tried and true, just fun genres, right? That people have shown that they enjoy over time. But then in each of those games, you earn items that businesses need, or you earn items that you can craft into more and more complex things. Or you could join our Lit Legion application, which lets you work in social media or interacting in real world tasks, things like that. So whatever it is that you like, if you like playing solitaire, or if you like card battling games, you can go in and focus on that, and then just have that be what you do in the game, and you create items that you could sell on glass block that other people use in what they're doing. So then somebody else who wants to focus on building a business in the overall financial ecosystem, they can buy items for accounting points or legal points or marketing points, right? And a lot of it then starts to tie into real world use. So for example, like marketing points come from doing real world marketing. So they're called Opsonaut, are the name of the token. So you do real world tweets, for example, and you get Opsonaut, sell it on Glassblock, and then somebody building a business who needs marketing resources can buy those tokens and use it in their virtual business. So it's really neat how the whole financial ecosystem ties together and again kind of mirrors the real world. And again, that's the thing I think that separates us from really what else is out there in the blockchain space.
I see, Tom. I mean, LitCraft, like you say, it's been around 5 years, so it's way before the concept of metaverses were created. I'm wondering, how does it compare to a metaverse? Is this the plan for the future to branch out and make LitCraft a metaverse as well?
Yeah. So a lot of my personal background is in the virtual reality space. So the robotic device that I was describing earlier that I created was a three-dimensional 3D touch device. So it gave you a very realistic sense of touch in computing. So for example, we did in that business, we did a dental simulator with the Harvard School of Dental Medicine, and you could reach and touch a virtual tooth. And the dean of the Harvard School of Dental Medicine gave us an A+ on the drilling. He said it felt exactly like real life. So the robotics created a sense of touch that felt to a surgeon like a real life surgical procedure. So it's a really neat technology. And the reason I bring that up, when you're talking about metaverses, is I've spent a lot of my career in 3D worlds, and back in 2000, 23 years ago, I started. We created an early 3D web portal called Touch City, and this was getting going about the same time that Second Life was getting going. Actually, at that time, I met the founder of Second Life, and we had a great meeting. It was nice talking with him. And so a lot of what people are describing, metaverses, has already kind of been through a cycle. It's already happened, and a lot of the same types of things that people are doing in metaverses they did in Second Life. I remember going into a Second Life, just beautiful campus that a Fortune 500 company had made, just amazing, especially for the time, but even by today's standards, just amazing graphics and all this great stuff. And it was a ghost town, like nobody was going to it. And so I think a lot of the blockchain metaverse space and gaming spaces making some of those same mistakes that were made in the past. You can't just create like spaces and expect people to run and join them if there's nothing really to do. And the things that really drive people to interact in 3D worlds are pretty established, really. So I think spaces like Roblox, or a lot of the Minecraft online servers, or first person shooters. Like there's a first person shooter I've spent a bunch of time recently called Valorant. You interact with people in 3D environments, 3D worlds, and people spend an awful lot of time in doing those kinds of things. So I think, to me, the key to metaverses is going to be finding the places that are tried and true, proven, and also which have existing monetization strategies. And again, that's another big aspect of what we're doing with Nesperience, is creating all of these various experiences that have existing monetization strategies. So I'll touch on that for a second also, because that's really important. If you go back into the mid 90s, the first CD-ROM game Myst came out, right? And then in early 2000s there were MMOs, and then kind of late 2000s, the app stores started showing up, and it started creating like freemium models or advertising based models, and then power ups like you'd use in Candy Crush Saga. And then one of the big things more recently is skins. like Valorant, makes their money off of skins. One of the big games that started that, or that had good success in it, was a game called Team Fortress 2 that I spent a lot of time playing as well. And there's these various monetization strategies that have kind of happened over time. So a big part of what we're doing with our metaverse and what we're creating is taking, again, these tried and true proven monetization strategies like advertising or power ups or skins, and we're making those available to the users. So if you play like our match 3 game and you want to buy a power up in it, like a bomb that explodes some of the tiles, you buy that bomb from somebody else who crafted it, and you buy it on glass block from that other user. So the ways that games are monetized, we give that power to the players of the game. And to me, I think that's going to be a big category of the future of video games, where the community and the players all earn and own the upside. And then then in terms of metaverse as well, kind of expanding, where we're going with that, we're on the 22nd, we're actually launching as well a 3D kind of world, and it's very similar to kind of the graphics in Minecraft or Roblox or the Lego games like Lego Star Wars, things like that. Kind of simple graphics but are fun. And we have a lot of different lands and worlds that you can run around in, and it's almost kind of like Ready Player One, if you know that book and movie, or Westworld's another example where you can jump into these different 3D worlds. Your character then takes on an avatar, or you take on an avatar with your character that matches, right? So if you're in a old fantasy RPG type of world, you can have a fantasy character avatar. If you jump into a more modern type of world, then your avatar will update to a more modern type of character. If you jump into a zombie fighting game, your character will be fit that avatar kind of character as well. And then all of these things then have the tie that brings them all together is the financial ecosystem. So you can go into the RPG world, do quests, get items, and then the items that you get craft into more and more things, and those items can be turned into something used in a different game or a different world or a different genre. So you might, for example, dig metals out of the ground in the kind of beginning experience Minecraft type of gameplay, and then craft those into parts that turn into components that turn into a car engine, and then you use that car engine to drive in a racing game, that kind of thing. And this isn't all just kind of pie in the sky. This is what we're going to do in the future. Like on the 22nd, we're actually launching, the first of the worlds and the interactions that you'll be able to go, and some initial first person shooter types of interactions and things like that. On top of what's already become, pretty established and robust. There's thousands of items in our financial ecosystem, thousands of different types of recipes, and so it's just getting more and more complex and interrelated. And we can, and then you tie that in addition with our sharding solution and our RESTful API, where anyone can instantly kind of tie their community or application into our financial ecosystem. It's all the fuel to really, I think, see the whole financial ecosystem just explode and start bringing in many more projects, many more tokens, many more areas of value, many more areas of communities. So I'm really excited about kind of where we're headed.
Awesome, Tom. Like you say, when metaverses was really popular last year, it was like, and then Facebook changed to Meta, and we had Second Life that's 15 years old, so obviously maybe it was ahead of its time. Like you say, it didn't really gain mass adoption, but maybe social media in the future, with Facebook changing to Meta, they're looking to build these metaverses for the better or the worse. I couldn't imagine being in a Facebook sort of metaverse. But going into LitCraft though, how do users get involved? So do they set up an account? How does it sort of work? Do they have to know about crypto? Is it connecting your wallet, or can you just join, outside of crypto as well?
Yeah. So one of the kind of core philosophies we had from the beginning is that anybody could join for free, and we want it to be a very easy to use kind of, again, Web 2 mass market type of experience. So you create an account just like any game, right? And it's just like creating a PayPal account. But when you create your account, then you get a wallet, and you can access your wallet on glassblock.io. And then once you have your account, then you just download from litcraft.com LitCraft.com, the Nesperians game, and then you just start playing. And the game takes you through kind of a task system. Like it gives you, here's your next task, here's your next task. So it's really easy to learn and start playing. But then the more you start getting into it, the more you start to realize that there's a lot of depth to each of the games. And there's a lot of depth to the whole financial ecosystem, and then new categories of experiences start to open up, like building businesses. So it's easy to play and easy to learn, and easy to have initial fun, but difficult to really master, especially when you start getting into the like the deep strategies of the card game. Really building a long-term scalable business. Some of the becoming really an expert in some of even the casual games. Really getting to the point where you're mastering them, and you get special tokens when you have expertise in a particular game. Those are fun things to work towards. Getting really good at. So the whole experience is very easy to get started, but then there's more and more depth the more you get into it.
I see, Tom. And you've got the Heptel in-game currency. I'm wondering if that's available for investors. It's an actual token on the blockchain as well. Is that tied in, or is it separate?
Yeah, so Heptals is the in-game currency. It doesn't really have the ability to go up in value, so one wouldn't invest in Heptals. What Heptals really represents is effort in the game, and so most of the different places that you can earn Heptals, come through kind of like a valuation analysis of what that time is worth, and how much expertise went into it, how much kind of other resources went into getting to the point where you can, create those heptals, that kind of thing. But really, heptals represent effort in the game. But that said, the whole game was designed as a play to own game, and the whole game was designed with fiat off ramps in mind. The idea is that people can come in and earn with the game. So heptals are used to further yourself in the game. You use heptals, for example, to invest into your business, in which case you can earn more heptals. A lot of kind of the early places where we're making it where you can earn heptals, like in the card battling game, over time, really what it'll become is, instead of growing a business where you earn heptals, you'll grow a business where you earn assets, and then those assets have value to somebody else and what they're doing, and it'll more and more become, again, like a real world economy where like you create a business to earn fiat, to earn money, but the way you do it is you create the business to create items that other people buy to give you give you that money, and the money is just the intermediary to show the value in the whole ecosystem. And so we combine those concepts of using heptals to invest into business, to further yourself in whatever you want to do. But then the things that you do that actually create value, there's a good 24 ways you can actually earn in the game, and have fiat off ramps that regular world sales of US dollars, or whatever, that have value to people. And a lot of that then again comes from tried and true existing game monetization strategies. So we have games that have power ups. You can craft power ups and sell them. There's skins, and you can create your own avatar in our social media system at Legion, and there's thousands of different clothing articles that you can craft that other people will want to buy. So that's similar to skins in other games. So any of the ways that traditional games are monetized, we're adding more and more of that into our ecosystem, that players again are the ones that take advantage of it. And then one last piece that I think goes hand in hand with all that too is we're getting close to a mobile release of the game. The game was designed for mobile from the beginning. 4 years ago, I had a early version of LitCraft experience running on my phone, where you could dig out the mining blocks and craft new things and everything. So once we get on mobile, that allows a much bigger crowd, to get access, and more mainstream types of users. And especially as we start doing that, I think there's going to be more and more people that just come in and just want to play, just want to have fun. They're not worried about the earning part. They're not worried about the the owning part. They just have games that they want to play and have fun, just like people do with Candy Crush Saga or Clash of Clans or whatever. And those people will be just players that then buy the items from other players who are interested in monetizing and making money in the game. So the whole concept, I think, really has legs and holds water for where it wants to go in the future. We created all the tools you need for scale. We created the tools you need for then buying and selling. We created the tools you need for seeing the items that you have, and then we're taking tried and true gameplay that's proven. There's no risk really that people are going to like solitaire or Sudoku, right? There's no risk that people are going to like match 3 games. I mean, you have to do a good job on the game, but it's not that hard to create those kind of classic types of games. And then there's kind of established ways that games make money, and we tie the players into it. So the whole concept, I think, is really a powerful way to grow what I think is going to be an entirely new category of the video game industry. And I think we've figured out a clever way to get started on it and a clever way to really grow it over time.
Awesome, Tom. And how does NFTs play into LitCraft? You've got LitCraft cards. I'm wondering if that's an NFT type thing, and crafting lit pets, or is that the in-game economy where you use resources inside the game to make lit pets?
Yeah. So given the wide variety of gameplay in LitCraft and experience, there's a wide variety of kind of interactions people can have, of course. So if you like solitaire, for example, and millions of people obviously like solitaire, it's one of the most played games, or if you like Tetris, right, or whatever, you can kind of come in and find a similar type of gameplay in LitCraft and experience. And so a lot of the types of interactions, you can play without really worrying about the assets. One level above that is you can go in and you can mine items, get more and more fungible tokens, coins. So not non fungible tokens, but just fungible tokens like Bitcoin or ETH, right? Or examples of fungible tokens, or dirt or grass, or examples of our fungible tokens. And you can craft those into more and more kind of complex things. So you can take minerals out of the ground, craft basic kind of electronic components, then craft more advanced components, and then parts, and ultimately up to kind of full systems. And all of those kinds of interactions do not use NFTs either. But you could buy and sell them on the Glassblock marketplace as fungible coins. And then there are types of gameplay that actually do use NFTs as well. And so NFTs are perfect when you what an NFT is. Most people have heard the term. Most people have a general feel for it, but literally what it is a non-fungible token, which means non-fungible means it's not the same as everything else. So you use NFTs when you have something that has unique characteristics. By definition, that's what an NFT is. So if you have a card in a card trading game, it's not like all the other cards. So that's a perfect use for an NFT. Or if you want to buy, like one of the big places people have used NFTs is art. And so if you want to buy artwork, an NFT can represent one unique piece of art, and then your ownership of the NFT represents either ownership of the art or ownership of a representation of the art, or whatever the NFT defines. But it's a unique token on the blockchain that represents specific details and characteristics of an item that's not like everything else. Versus grass and dirt, where one grass block or one dirt block is just like the others. Okay, so with that said, then there's definitely places where kind of unique items do have value in our ecosystem, of course, just like the real world. In the real world, you have things like car titles, or land ownership. That's a good example of where NFTs, I think, in the future will be used to represent real world assets. In our case, we have trading cards, which are lit pets that you can use to battle with. And then the lit pets also have characteristics, and they're again crafted on chain on the DevX blockchain using a smart contract. And so when a lit pet is crafted, it's crafted with a number of characteristics like strength or intelligence or charisma, or things like that. And then that affects how they can be used in businesses. So if you like the card battling games, You can get lit pets that have particular powers that work well together in a deck, like other card battling games, or you can collect lit pets that work well, in a business. Or you could just collect lit pets that look cool or have kind of unique characteristics. Or you could try to, get Genesis lit pets, which are, kind of the first run that we did, things like that. Other forms of NFTs are land ownership. So again, with this new 3D world that we're bringing out on April 22nd, you'll have the ability to have your own land. And again, a lot of the criticisms I think in the crypto space have been, what does land really do? And people were able to sell land and get funds to kind of grow something. In our case, the land in this new kind of 3D world is going to represent kind of your location to do things in the 3D world, including like sell items that are only available in lit land in the 3D world. And so you could set up your own shop and sell unique items that one has to physically go to, and then you can do a Minecraft type of building where you build and make your shop look nice and to show it how you want to show it, to sell your items. So the land itself is an NFT. Clothing items for for the avatar system in the overall kind of social part of the overall LitCraft ecosystem. Those are NFTs as well, the clothing. And then we'll have other NFTs like cars or maybe 3D avatars, things like that. Again, anything that's kind of unique that its uniqueness is part of the value proposition. So yeah, NFTs are a big part of the overall financial ecosystem. And then one last thing I'll mention too is NFTs also are a big part of where we're going in the future. So a big part of Devio's business outside of the digital financial ecosystem is in the ES&G space, environmental, social, and governance. So we use NFTs to track things like carbon credits or plastics offsets. When people remove plastics out of the ocean, you can have a unique identifier that represents the plastic that was removed out of the ocean. And we're going to over time bring more and more of those real world assets into this digital financial ecosystem. So starting now, there's a couple examples even right off the bat. You can do marketing effort, retweets, or bringing other people into the community, or creating guides for other players who are getting started. Whatever it is that you're interacting in the real world with real people, that you can do through Lit Legion, which is our community application. It's really a neat concept too. It's like a real world MMO where you do real world tasks to get these assets. So you get the assets from doing the real world tasks. And then you can sell those assets in Glass Block. So you have an example of real world effort, retweeting a tweet, which is a real world concept, creating value in this digital financial ecosystem. And then we'll also have some initial concepts like plastics tokens, where you can take the plastics tokens, where each token represents trash being taken out of the ocean, literally in the real world, and then get those tokens and craft them into more and more things that create value. And the initial purchase of those plastics tokens then goes to the company that's removing the plastic out of the ocean, so that they can remove more plastic out of the ocean, create more tokens. And so as that kind of grows, while you're playing, you're actually doing real world good in the real world, actually, helping to change and modify the environment. And eventually we want to have real world things like car titles and real world land ownership that's represented in this overall digital financial ecosystem. So the longer term vision of what we're doing is a very big vision. It's beyond just video games. It really is focused around the entirety of the financial ecosystem.
I see, Tom. And how do players interact in the LitCraft world?
How do you mean?
So how can they interact together? How's it sort of set up? Like is it linked like social media? Can people discuss things and talk? Is it a text box? Is it voice chat? How does it work?
Oh, I see. Yeah. So most of our communications right now in the community are on Telegram. One of the things that we're starting right now is some tools that link in Telegram with our Lit Legion application. So and we're starting to put more effort into our Twitter following and everything as well. So there's already places where people are used to interacting and where a lot of people already are. And so I don't want to kind of recreate the wheel, but we want to add our own parts into it. So what Lit Legion really is doing is creating real world tasks that you do the tasks, and then you level up just like an MMO. So we call it a real world MMO, and it's because it's like the concepts that really happen in a real world MMO. So you in an MMO like World of Warcraft, for example. You go to an NPC. That NPC kind of internally in the game represents a tree of tasks, right? Do this task, go collect 50 skins in the forest, come back, it's done. He gives you another task, do that, maybe one more, you do that, and then he introduces you to another NPC. So we have that same concept in Lit Legion where you actually have NPCs, and we're looking right now into integrating things like ChatGPT to make them more interactive, including in the 3D metaverse world. And so, so you'll have these trees of tasks that you do, and a lot of the tasks are socially oriented. So to your question about how people interact, a lot of the tasks will be things like play one of the games with another player, that kind of thing, or jump into some of our PvP types of player versus player, like the card battling, or you can even PvP against other players in solitaire. A lot of it will be adding things on our wiki that give beginning players more information and guidance, or even become a guide or a tutor to somebody who's just getting started. Those will be the types of things we'll do with Lit Legion, and then we're going to have people communicate on kind of regular channels, Telegram and Discord, for example. And then over time, we're going to add a little bit more technology into that as well, where you have certain rights in the group based on what level you level up into. So you get experience points, just like a real world MMO as well. So you level up in Lit Legion, and that kind of represents your prestige in the community. And you can show off your avatar to other people as well. And as you level up in the community, you'll get more rights, more admin abilities or moderator abilities, more access to some of the more valuable tasks that come up that have a limited number of people, things like that. So the social aspect of what we're doing is a big part of kind of where we're overall going.
I see, Tom, and you've got Grant Began as well, the Finder's Code. So you've actually had a book written about LitCraft as well.
Yeah. So again, this kind of predates Devio, but a friend of mine and I created a book called Grant Began, The Finder's Code, and it's one of kind of the first real uses of the sci-fi fantasy universe, and I'm really proud of it. It's one of those things that as we were done with it, I'll always be proud of it, even if no one ever reads it, because it was just enjoyable to create. It's really kind of well thought out. The whole sci-fi fantasy universe is very deep and rich, so it's a fun kind of first place, to kind of explore and experience the overall fantasy universe. And then actually we just got started on the second book. And the book overall is I think a fun again a fun concept, and it ties in well with everything else we're doing as well. So creatures in the book show up in the game. Creatures in the game will show up in future books. Society aspects in the book and game overlap. Places in the game and book overlap. And the book is about a young teenage boy who has kind of innate magical abilities, and he's part of what you call the unlit society, which is all of kind of the regular world like us. And then there are special mages within the lit society called flames. And the reason the lit society is called lit, LitCraft and everything is referred to as lit, isn't the term lit that's since popped up. It's because of flames, light people's magical abilities. So generation to generation, flames, these special types of mages with this special ability to light other mages' abilities, they light new mages' abilities, and over generations, the mage society is continually being lit, so that mages can continue their powers. So that's why the society is called Lit Society, and that's where the term LitCraft came from. Like witchcraft, this is LitCraft, right? So LitCraft is a term that they use themselves. So there's a special, really kind of powerful flame whose name is William Warwick, and he bumps into Grant at a crowded event, the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. So Grant is just a regular kid, likes to play video games. He's going to the balloon fiesta with his cousin, and then the Flame is just going to a crowded place to find mages that have potential power, and bumps into Grant. They have kind of a really shocking experience, each of them, because of Grant's the level of Grant's kind of innate power. And so he has the potential to become a very powerful mage. So William kind of tracks him down, and then the book is about William lighting ultimately Grant's powers, introducing him to the Lit Society, going down to the city in the center of the earth called Scent, and Grant's kind of amazement when he first, it's a book filled with a lot of wonder. It's a wondrous type of concept, I think, and it's a lot of fun in that sense. And then without any spoilers around kind of those basic concepts, then Grant gets pulled into this battle between two powerful mages called a finder and a controller, and the series is how Grant is kind of pulled into that battle and his role in it, and all of that. So it's kind of a fun book introducing the sci-fi fantasy universe. I think it's just a good story on its own. And then it's the first of media that we're going to be doing. Some of the storytelling that we'll do in the metaverse world in Experience is going to be storytelling similar, where it's more adventures that you go on within this sci-fi fantasy world. We've been working on a show that's an animated show called Paps and E, that also is kind of a Rick and Morty type of show. Similar to South Park, kind of basic graphics, but using powerful metaphysical concepts like Rick and Morty does. So over time, you'll have more and more media, that ties in with the sci-fi fantasy universe, and all of that, coming together, I think is a powerful part of everything we're building as well. It's not just kind of slapping together, a quick game for a quick buck. It's something that we hope has real lasting value in the world, and again, hopefully becomes one of the big IPs that people really come to know.
Awesome, Tom. And I'm wondering what the sort of player base you have in the LitCraft world, and how you're looking to expand that in the future through marketing plans throughout the year.
Yeah, so we have a really experienced marketer, Adam Greenhood, that we recently brought on. He's a ringer as well. He's one of the things I'm most proud of at Devio is the team. Actually, let me just touch base on that just real quickly, because that's an important part of our overall story, I think. So Adam is one of our really valuable team members, and I'll expand on marketing efforts in just a moment. But we also have, for example, Vincent Stewart, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency and deputy commander of U.S. Cyber Command. So he led the United States efforts in cybersecurity as a 3-star general. We have 2 very experienced venture capitalists on our team. Ray Quintana was one of 2 general partners at the best performing early stage venture capital company in the country, according to Preqin. We have Will Stewart on our team, who is one of the most impressive resumes. He started his career in tech in the mid 80s. He got therefore to learn and know a lot of kind of the early tech leadership. He was very close personal friends with Paul Allen. He knew Bill Gates. Paul Allen and Bill Gates were 2 of the first investors in his first fund. And over time, he had $5 billion into his funds, and he invested over 400 tech companies. A lot of them were the big tech companies we know today. So incredibly connected person. And both Ray and Will describe Devio as one of the best opportunities they've seen. So they've both personally gotten involved. Ray's been my partner, growing the business. I interact with Will weekly. We have Sonny Trin on our team, a former executive vice president at Avnet. Chris Church is an advisor. He's the former CEO of Swift, the international banking company. Mike DiPetrillo, the former head of blockchain at VMware, a $9 billion tech company. The person that built our marketplace, again, built the Amazon Kindle marketplace. We're working with Craig Kornblau, a former president of Universal Pictures. Just really a world-class team, and we have a world-class technical team as well. So again, just kind of giving the background. That's I should have done that at the beginning, but that's a big part of where we're going is just working with world-class folks, and I feel honored, honestly, working with the folks I'm working with at Devio. So then on the marketing side, to answer your question. after that little kind of aside, Adam's been putting together a lot of marketing efforts. So up until this point, really, it's been just kind of working with our initial community, getting to the point where we could put the game out, working out the kinks, and we're at the point now where we're ready to really start marketing. And I think even more so as we get the iOS and Android, games out. So there's hundreds of daily active users now. More transactions, like in a few weeks time, every few weeks we have more blocks than the entirety of the Bitcoin, blockchain, for example. So it's getting a lot of activity already. But it's really designed, to become a mainstream type of game. And so as we start going onto mobile and start really pushing forward our bigger marketing efforts, I think we're at a point where it could really start expanding. And then that's kind of our own marketing and our own game design. Overall, again, we designed the system to work with our sharding solution, where other companies can build their own shards, and then other companies can, with the RESTful API, integrate in, and then we can bring their communities, their assets, their gameplay, their interactions into our overall financial ecosystem. So a lot of our future growth really is going to be more around business development than marketing, or as much around business development as marketing. So that's kind of our key to our growth plans.
Okay, great, Tom. Let's open up the spaces for questions. Let's see, we've got Aisha here. You had a question for Tom at LitCraft. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. I have a question regarding starting a virtual business in the game. Is there any requirement for the player's avatar or character to possess specific skills to begin a business, or they can start any business and switch between them as they please? Also, is it possible for players to collaborate and establish a business together, or each business must be owned by a single player?
So those are great questions. Thank you, and nice to meet you. The philosophy of the businesses is just like real life. If somebody wants to start a bakery and they're a baker, they do it because they have a passion for baking, right? If you start a tech business, it's because you have a passion for technology and innovation. If you start a restaurant, it's because you have a passion for cooking, or you want to build that type of business and have customers come in, and it's what you want to do. So that's a lot of what kind of drives the kind of business that you want to create. So you start a business based on kind of what you want to do. So if you like the Match 3 game, for example, which is kind of a farming game, then you can start a farming business. If you enjoy kind of the digging game, you can start a mining business. If you like crafting things, you can create what's called an officiant business. So officiant in the lit lore is the equivalent of a manufacturer for the unlit. And so whatever it is you kind of like doing in the game, you can create a business around that. And then when you first start a business, the first level business is kind of like a gig business, right? Like you can do a lot of kind of real world gig work, in a lot of cases at least, without really starting a business. Just have a single member limited liability corporation, or even just do work that you like to do. But then if you want to get more serious about building a business, then you actually in the game indicate that you want to build a scalable business. And when you first build a scalable business, it's not profitable. Like you have to put money into it and continue growing it. And you lose money over time, and you'll lose heptals, and so just like the real world, like if you start a bakery, you got to plan that you're going to have to put money into it to ultimately get to the point where it's successful. And a level 1 business doesn't have too many needs. But as you start getting up to a level 4, level 5, up to ultimately a level 10 business, you get more and more requirements to scale. You'll have more and more kind of employee needs, which are lit pets. And then you have more and more just categories of requirements. So ultimately, just like in the real world, you ultimately have HR, human resources. You have energy needs for the business, water needs for the business, and all of these become items that you need in order to grow. And so when you ask, can you run the business like with somebody else? Right now, there's one owner for a business, but you definitely could work with other people and have them, do parts of the business. You could have somebody on your team go out and figure out the energy, requirements for the business, and either craft or buy, the energy requirements, that you need. Same with the legal points. So you could have someone on your team that's kind of your lawyer. And the way that you get legal points in the game is solitaire. So over time, I'd like to have it where legal points come from real world legal uses. But in the analogy in the beginning, you get legal points from solitaire. You get accounting points from Sudoku. Like if you've ever played Sudoku, the goal of Sudoku is getting all the lines to line up and everything to add up perfectly, and each box, each column, and each row. It's very like accounting processes, right? So you get accounting points by playing Sudoku. And then after you've built a business, then ultimately you own that business. You get it to a point where it's profitable. You can create daily profit, and you can even sell your business, and you could sell your business on glass block. So you can imagine, people in the space that want to actually just buy a business and get into LitCraft without really going through all the hard work over time, that you have to do to build a business, and they just buy it. And the thing that's nice then is somebody who along the way enjoyed all of the gameplay and enjoyed building the business ultimately gets to an exit point where they could sell the business for fiat, on glass block, that type of thing. So the businesses really kind of mirror a lot of, real world concepts.
Awesome. Sounds really interesting. And now, nice to meet you too. Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you, Aisha.
answering.
Thank you for the questions, Aisha. Next up, we've got Captain Levi. You had a question for Tom at LitCraft. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. So my first question is that the main problems in today's games are the bad matchmaking systems. They end up disappointing players because they actually mismatch players of the same rank. Could you give us an overview of your matchmaking system and how it's better and more advanced?
Sure. Yeah, so again, I come from the traditional video game industry, and this is a big challenge in video games broadly, not just blockchain based video games. So how do you when you have PvP types of systems, player versus player, how do you match people up, so that people don't get frustrated and they can still have fun? And again, like I was recently playing Valorant. You have people that are smurfing, so they play lower, they start a new account, they're really good players, and they come in and they just dominate, new players, and it's frustrating as a new player. So again, this is a big challenge in the entire video game industry. So the way, one thing in kind of addressing that question to keep in mind is a lot of the gameplay in LitCraft Experience is not based around PvP. There's a ton of gameplay that's just PvE, player versus environment, where you just go and you find materials, you earn them, you craft them, you build your own things. You're not competing directly against anybody. So if you find the PvP experience frustrating in games in general, or if you just like kind of solo play, there's a lot of content for you in LitCraft. So that said, on the PvP side of things, we use just a kind of a traditional system where you rank up in a ladder and you play people who are at a comparable skill level. So in the card battling game, for example, as you play, if you get a really good deck and you have a good strategy, or even if you spend money to get higher level cards that are a little more powerful, you work your way up through the ladder in the heptone battling system. So battles on the card battling game are called heptones. So you work your way up through the heptone ladder, and you ultimately get to a point where you're battling people that are kind of your same skill. And you'll probably even have some people that are just really good at the game that could play with any deck and just be able to do well. And you probably get some players that spend a little bit of extra money to get cards that are a little more powerful. And that's true in, like, Magic the Gathering, for example. You can there's markets for cards, and people spend a lot of time figuring out the strategies and decks. And so the ladder system, I think, will make it where the PvP gameplay kind of each day is balanced, and you're playing people kind of at your level. And then the further up the ladder that you get, the bigger the kind of weekly bonuses are, that you earn extra heptals by being particularly good in the battling game. Same thing with PvP. For like, we'll have PvP. We're in the process of developing PvP for some of the more casual games like solitaire and Sudoku and things like that. And so you'll be able to battle against other people playing solitaire or Sudoku, and a lot of that. And there's other games that do that. There's other games that let you earn real cash, and they're successful games by battling out in games like that. And it comes down to both players get the same deck. Whoever can get it done faster, basically, and ends up winning a 1v1 type of match. And that the same thing is handled through a ladder system where you work your way up on the ladder for any given game. And in that case, there's no there's no NFTs to buy. So we have different types of PvP. Eventually, we want to have first person shooter battles, or that are PvP based. So we don't have that yet, but eventually we'll do that, and it'll just be the same again, kind of strategies and challenges that the traditional video game industry uses.
Okay, not sure we've lost Captain there, but next up we've got Ramat. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Okay, was LitCraft developed using Unity engine, and do you have any intention of creating your own game engine or SDK for your ecosystem to maybe enable game developers to build games on Devio and within the LitCraft world in future?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we used Unity to build the application. So the original, very early version of LitCraft, 6 years ago, we built on Flash, or actually it was more like it had set, we ported it 6 years ago. It had sat for a year, so more than a decade ago, we built it on Flash. So one of the first things we did is we ported to a modern engine. And the two main candidates that you look at are Unity and Unreal, and a lot of the gameplay is casual. So Unity's the most used game engine in the world. So Unity was a good choice. So we built it into Unity. We have no plans for making our own game engine. Like that's not what we do. So there's great game engines out there. Again, Unity, Unreal, and there's others. But what we did do is we made it very easy to integrate with any existing game engine. So literally instantly, like anybody can put a few lines of code into their game, into an existing game, and have it tie into our blockchain. And that's really the big power of what we do. That's probably the thing that differentiates us more than anybody else, or more than anything else in the blockchain space. On the DevX blockchain is our ease of integration and the ability to spin up shards that are particular to your own use case. So if somebody has even a AAA level game, they could spin up a shard specifically for their game. So that game would have its own blockchain. That shard can communicate with other shards as needed, but a lot of cases, it's not needed. And so they spin up a shard, and then you could take a traditional Web 2 team and just with some commands, just HTTP post commands in that you access, with APIs in Unity or Unreal, just instantly be able to generate tokens, transfer tokens, generate NFTs, transfer NFTs. And all the things that you would really need to do in a game. So it's very easy to integrate in, to existing games and existing using our RESTful API.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering. Over to you, Glenn.
Thanks very much, Ramat. Let's take one more question. We've got lots of hands up today. It's been a great discussion with LitCraft with Tom. So we've got Dennis next. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Glenn. Okay, as you mentioned that some businesses require real life business mechanics. So it got me thinking that will there be also a requirement of a certain skills or training needed in the game to start a business? Additionally, for crafting the items, is it necessary for players to first have the skills or experience level to craft some special items in the game?
Okay, so two questions. The second question I'm going to ask you to repeat in a moment. I didn't quite catch it, but the first question I'll answer to get started. So there are there is a concept of skills in the businesses, just like real life, but that's more for your employees, and your employees are lit pets. And so as you scale your business up, and you grow it bigger and bigger, which in this case means leveling it up, and you get from a level 2 to 3 to 4 up to level ultimately 10 business, you ultimately need hundreds of employees, hundreds of lit pets, and each lit pet has characteristics, and those characteristics um, allow you to fill that role in your business. And so, and it's just like real life, right? You can't hire somebody that doesn't know programming to be a programmer in your business, right? So you need people with specific characteristics. So the characteristics aren't really kind of necessarily skills, but they're indicative of the skills, right? So if you have a business, and you need kind of technical staff, you need lit pets that have high intelligence. If you have a mining business and you have workers that are going to be working hard, you need lit pets that have a good strength characteristic. As you get a bigger business, you need kind of leadership level roles, and those leaderships will have those leadership lit pets. You don't need as many of them, but you have to find some unique lit pets that have high values for leadership or integrity, or things like that. So there's like 15 or 16 different characteristics that each lit pet has, and that defines what kind of roles they can play and how unique they are. And there should be a place for everybody in lit society, which is one of the goals that we show in this. So over time, we'll make sure that every kind of lit pet and then every kind of player all have places that they can take part in society. And that's a lot of what we kind of represent as a company in the game as a whole. Actually, I'll just spend one moment, because this is a good point, I think, to bring up, especially as we're getting kind of towards the end. Is a big part of what we're doing. The whole point, really, of ultimately doing it. You think, why are you starting this business versus other things I could be spending my time doing? A big part of it is because blockchain has potential to really fundamentally change and improve society. And a big vision of what we're wanting to do is create this overall digital financial ecosystem that allows real world, like real life, in the real world, allow real people to really have control over the value that they create in the world. And again, it's the digital financial ecosystem is going to expand beyond just games. We'll ultimately get to a point where we represent real world assets, real world human endeavor, and there's too many middlemen in the world that take too much of the value. And so blockchain really, as a technology, represents a technology that can become an equalizer, where people control their own value creation. Somebody who creates a box of cereal, that sells for $5 in the grocery store, only gets like 7 to 9 cents, of the money that's sold. That's not fair. They're creating a lot of the arguable most value in the product. But it's the big brands and distributors, that take most of the value. So blockchain, is a technology that can equalize people's ownership of their value creation in the world. And then I'd also like to see, that people have the resources that they need to fulfill their potential. It's a sad concept that, you have somebody who could be a brilliant scientist in the world who doesn't have, access to education to be able to fulfill their potential or reach their potential. So I think blockchain also, as a technology, has the potential to give resources to people across the world. And that's what we embody in the LitCraft society, and that's what we embody as a company. And those are all things that we're working to grow towards. So sorry for the quick aside there, but it's one point that I thought I would like to make, and your question kind of prompted it. Okay, and so then with that, what was the second part of your question?
Okay, I was saying that to craft the items in the game, will players need to first have the skills or experience level to craft some of the special items, or anyone can just craft any item in the game without needing any specific skills or experience level?
For the most part, you can just jump in, and if you know the recipe to craft something, you can just craft it. There is value in knowing the recipes, and there are going to be a concept similar to trade secrets, right? So Coca-Cola has kept their formula secret. Kentucky Fried Chicken or KFC now has kept the Colonel's secret recipe secret, right? So those are good examples of trade secrets. So there's going to be ways that you could just trial and error and experiment and try to figure out recipes, just like real life, that ultimately have value in the digital financial ecosystem. And then once you have that, I think what's going to happen is people are going to try to keep that secret, just like Coke and KFC have. But I'm not sure. People might find recipes and then put it on their blog and try to attract people to their blog because they have the inside scoop on things. So we'll have to see how it ultimately goes. One thing that I think will expand over time, because we're really driving the interactions in Legion and leveling up and interacting in the community. I think we're going to have things that the more you play the game, the more involved you get, the more you interact with the community, the more you can level up in Legion. And we are going to have opportunities that are only available to kind of leaders in the community, people who have put in their work and effort, have done shown that they're really contributing to the overall effort. And there'll be some things that only are available if you've actually collected a particular recipe or if you've attained a certain level in Lit Legion. But we don't have a lot of those concepts now, but those are things that we're planning for in the future.
Okay, that's really great. And yeah, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the question, Venice. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but it's been great speaking to Tom today. He's very knowledgeable on crypto and on the LitCraft world and everything he's building in the crypto space. So in the future, I was wondering, Tom, we also have an aquarium spaces where we specifically go into certain areas of crypto weekly, and that's on our aquarium show, and I'd like to invite you there in the future. It'd be great to have you as a guest speaker. We have like multiple speakers on once a week at 3 p.m. UTC on Wednesdays, so it'd be great to have you on that in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Sounds great. Yeah, thank you for thinking of me on that. One thing I'll say is I've appreciated the AMA. It was it felt a little higher quality than some of the ones I've done. Seems like a great community. The questions were not just kind of pre-canned ones. They were spawned from things I had actually said. So seems like a great community. Would love to get to know your community more. And community is a big part of what we do in general. So any folks here that are interested in kind of joining our community as well, go to our LitCraft Telegram and join in there, ask questions if you start playing the game. It really is a fun, really great community. So appreciate the chance to be here, and nice to meet everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. As we say, welcome to Talk Spaces for Education and Research. I recommend you check out the website, the white paper, and if anyone's got any more questions, I think through Tom's logo there, you'll be able to get to these socials. Whereabouts does a community mainly hang out, Tom? Is it over on Telegram?
Yeah, mainly on Telegram. So join our Telegram group, and that's always a good place to start.
Okay, great. Thanks very much for coming today, Tom, and take care.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me. Take care.